Modes implied by the minimal number of intervallic relationships to the implied node. What does that mean? Misunderstanding how modes work is the hidden secret of many an intermediate guitarist. It's the beginning of changing the way you listen and the way you feel things. For the purposes of this presentation, we will be using the ordinary Western major scale. What are these nodes? Well, there's more than just major. You may have figured out by now that the major and minor scales are actually the same thing, but the context is different. You treat this node as the root. The intervallic relationships of all other points will have a different meaning than they would if they were in relationship to another node. You can take any point in the scale and treat it as the root note, and then change the emotional context of the same notes. Each point has their own sound and unique imagery and emotional response. You will begin to associate these sounds with emotions. Locrian, for example, is very mysterious. It can come across as an urgent summoning of dark powers, but in the wrong hands, it can be quite silly. Music as a means of controlling emotion. Do you not see that we're beginning to get into magic? I now hope you understand what the nodes are. What does it mean to imply? You don't need to play the entire picture to get an idea for which mode you're on. I have done a lot of work to discover the minimal number of intervallic relationships you need to imply a node. And then I later found out that Miles Davis went through this work too, and I wasted a lot of time. I recommend you think of the modes in a circular way, and then reinforce that understanding with going through the long way of learning the modes in a linear collection of intervals. Some of you may have to go through the hard way of thinking of modes as individual scales, and that's too much work. It's just one scale. You're just moving it around. But in the end, you have to do both, because you have to be able to think in the intervals, so you don't have to play the entire scale and rely on shapes and stuff. Y'all that are into patterns and analytical thinking are going to love this. Check this. If you play the root note with the tritone, you know it's not Mixolydian or Aeolian or Phrygian or major or Dorian. You know it could be Lydian or Locrian, but you need more context. The only thing you need to do to imply Lydian is play the root note with the tritone and anything else in the scale. That will distinguish itself from Locrian, and the way you play that is the root and the tritone plus one of any other note in the scale. It will be different than Lydian. If you play the root with a major third and a minor seventh, the only way that's going to happen is Mixolydian. If you play root with a minor second, it could also be Locrian. Add the natural fifth, everyone knows it's Phrygian. If you hear a minor third with a major six, that can only be Dorian. Major second with minor six, it's got to be a finally perfect fourth with major seventh can only